What's going on, guys? It's SEVelocity here, episode 3. I'm Ev, he's Sean. SEVelocity, what's going on? What's up, people? You want to say anything to the folks?
How's it going, everyone? As usual, glad to be here. Shoot another episode with my guy Ev. We saw a lot of stuff this week alone, the NBA playoffs. So just can't wait to get into it, share our thoughts with you, and hopefully you share your thoughts with us as well.
Yeah, so let's get into it. Which part do we want to talk about first? Major heartbreak?
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
get it out of the
might
way.
as well get that over with.
I'll let you start off.
As we know, my team, the New York Knicks, has severely failed me today, this week, and has made sure that they've done a phenomenal job of letting me down. Nonetheless, though, it was a great
That's New
season.
York.
As Stephen A, I believe, said, we exceeded expectations by a long shot for the season, but definitely ruined everything in the playoffs. Shout out to Julius Randle. During the season at least. Not shout out for his playoff performance, but shout out Derrick Rose for his playoff performances until the last game. I think he burned out a bit, but that's okay. As much as I hated the way that ended, I can't think of a more respectable team that's underrated than the Hawks to advance. Trae Young played the villain really well, as much as I hated that, and them versus the Sixers should be interesting.
Evan, I have to call you out today, and I want all the fans to know that this man right here, he corrupted me, he brainwashed me. As I've articulated before, I'm a day one New York Knicks hater, die hard, and I was rooting for the Atlanta Hawks throughout this series. But if you go back to episode one, I had predicted that the New York Knicks would probably win this series because I felt they had a better roster. This man right here brainwashed me into having some faith in the Knicks. Like I cannot believe I let him do this. Like I'm ashamed of myself.
You should
I
be.
mean, I was laughing. I was happy to see the Knicks lose. I posted up my Snap stories, all of that. Still, definitely big shout out to Derrick Rose, though he was balling. And I'm happy for the Hawks moving on. But then I had a moment of disappointment, saying I cannot believe I actually thought they could do this. This is the New York Knicks. Me more than anyone knows, should know better than to ever have any ounce of faith in them. They've humiliated New York City for the past couple of years. They've humiliated their fans. Have they not humiliated you, Evan? And yeah, exactly. I cannot believe it. Like I'm supposed to be the one to reel Evan into reality while he fantasizes his team, but I got brought into it too. I promise you, never again, never again. Even if they have the best roster in NBA history, I'm always counting them out. That's
Cho-
all I got to say.
Choking in the first round of the playoffs. New York basketball's back, baby.
Yeah, but it's okay. As you can still root for New York. You root for the real New York team now, the Brooklyn Nets.
No, 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 no. We just needed Amari Stoudemire and Carmelo Anthony back. Come out of retirement, Amari. Carmelo can
And
come back.
Chauncey. And
Of course, of
Chauncey.
course.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we could talk about the other matchup. Since the Hawks are facing the Sixers, we could talk about the Sixers closing out the series against the Wizards this week as well. However, much bigger implications than anyone anticipated after taking a pretty swift lead. Now they lost their best player by a long shot, and Embiid with a minor or partial meniscus tear, I believe.
Yeah,
So
it's a minor tear. No
his
surgery or anything.
his status is unknown for game one, but I think there is going to be a significant difference in how he plays. I don't think he's going to be able to be as physical as he wants to be. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't think necessarily from physicality aspect he's going to be compromised, but more so I'll say more mobile, the more mobile aspect. Like normally we see him really running out there in transition, especially on the defensive and like chasing down guards. Sometimes I don't think we're gonna see too much of that, and it's gonna. I think it. Well, he was already a terrible perimeter defender, but I think his lateral quickness is gonna be compromised. We're probably not gonna see too many dunks, but he's probably gonna be taking more jump shots. I believe, like on the elbows.
It's a good thing considering Ben Simmons can't do it.
Oh yeah. It's
So,
funny. I wanted to know what was your thought on this, Ev. I don't know if you saw the Doc Rivers interview when they asked him about benching Ben Simmons because of his inability to shoot. Because that one game, the game when they lost to the Wizards, they pretty much just when Embiid went out, they just kept hacking Simmons, putting him at the free throw line, and obviously he missed like I believe half of them. And Doc pretty much said, "I'm not benching Simmons. Like, have you watched a game of basketball? This guy is too valuable of a player to put on the bench."
well, I think his playmaking and defense alone makes up for his lackluster shooting. But I do think that any NBA player can have no problem improving their free throw percentage. So I think that's something that he should try to work on a consistent basis, or else he's going to turn into hack a Shaq in a sense, where he's going to get hacked left and right by teams just to send them to the free throw line. So I don't think it would be a bad thing if he started working a lot on his free throws and just improving it. If he can at least get it to like 60 or 70% shooting, or even 65%, so he's not missing half or more of his free throws, because that's going to be a problem when it comes playoff time. And the game is only like a 3-point game, and he's getting hacked left and right.
I think another issue with him as well is he's not dominant enough to like essentially brush aside his lack of shooting ability like Giannis. Giannis, like you've heard me say many times, he cannot shoot. He's a way better shooter than Ben Simmons, and
Yeah.
he has shown improvement each year. But still, Giannis cannot shoot. But he is such a monster and force driving to the basket. He's practically unstoppable. Teams have to build a wall to stop him. That tells you how dominant he is inside. You see, despite his lack of ability shooting, that's putting pressure on defenses. Ben Simmons doesn't do that. Ben Simmons gives them a break essentially, and then that's extra pressure on Embiid.
Yeah. And Giannis, like you mentioned, he's taken the time to go through more shooting and 3-point shooting. He admits he always tries to improve his biggest weakness in the offseason, and he said that was shooting at one point. So I think that Simmons should kind of focus on that over summer, consistently shooting and just doing free throws, jump shots, anything to improve his game, because he's one step away from being a superstar if he's able to consistently shoot. But he's just not
Yeah,
there yet.
I honestly think he'd even go beyond practicing. Because remember, I think it was last summer. I remember all the videos of him in the gym taking those jump shots, taking a lot of shots and pick up, hitting those threes in preseason. But I think it might be psychological.
Mhm.
Like who knows? And knowing Doc Rivers, I feel like he does put Simmons through shooting drills, but I feel Simmons either A just not confident enough to just shoot the jump shots, or even doesn't feel confident at the free throw line to sink them in games, or it could even just be blatant stubbornness on his end as well.
I agree. I think that there's gonna have to be tremendous improvement though. Um,
Definitely.
I, is there a key, in your opinion, to the series between the Hawks and the Sixers? Like for each team, like what do you think each team has to do to win?
Many people might disagree with this. You might as well, but part of me actually thinks that even without Embiid, the Sixers have a shot to beat the Hawks because I was thinking about from a matchup perspective, like a big weakness with Philly previously was when Embiid came off the court, they didn't have a legit center to put at the 5 spot. But now they with Dwight Howard, now he's not going to dominate, especially on the offensive end. But he's still a great rim protector and can still rebound the ball, so they'll be covered in that category. And Clint Capella, he's not an offensive force; he's a similar type of player to Dwight Howard. So then I think it's going to be focused primarily on perimeter play, and again, we have a sniper in Seth Curry who can create his own shot and feed from Simmons' playmaking off the ball. Similar thing with Tobias Harris, but he's an even better shot creator than a Seth Curry, and he can get in the mid range, get into lanes. He's a more versatile scoring option than them. So I think because of that, they have the perimeter shooting from those guys and the versatility, like in their scoring abilities, to both off the ball working with Simmons and then creating their own shots without him. I think they can contend with these Hawks. If Embiid was there, I would honestly, would I call this sweep? No, I would probably say 5 games. But without Embiid, I can see this going. I can see this going 7 games if Embiid doesn't come back at all.
I think it's interesting because I don't think that the Hawks were as much of a threat as they were going into the playoffs. I think
Hmm.
that the Knicks did play bad, but I also think that that was also in part to do with what the Hawks did offensively and defensively in the schemes that they set up. So
Yeah.
I'm concerned that the Hawks might be one of those teams similar to the Miami Heat last year, where they're going to be very streak based and they're capable of beating anybody. But I'm not 100% certain. I think that John Collins and Clint Capella, especially with Embiid gone, might be a huge problem. But if the Hawks don't shoot well, then I don't think they have a chance. Like against the Knicks, they had not only Trey Young drilling threes, but they had guys like Bogdanovich who were always wide open based off of ball movement and drilling every three possible. And if they can't get that, I think that they're probably going to lose in 5 or 6. But if they keep giving consistent ball movement and dominating down low, I think that the Hawks could easily win the series in 6 as well. So, you have a final
So
prediction?
if I'm predicting for that series, yeah, Sixers are gonna win.
And how many?
Sixers and geez, it's just so hard because we don't know about Embiid. All right, I'll just throw two out there. Embiid come back, Sixers and 5. Embiid doesn't come back, Sixers and 7.
All right, I'm going to go controversial here. I had the Sixers advancing in this round originally. I'm going Hawks in 6, solely
With
because of
or without
Embiid.
Embiid,
Uh,
with or without Embiid.
assuming Embiid misses or is very limited in the first 2 games, and him possibly finishing out the series, but very minimal like gameplay or very careful gameplay.
And if Embiid doesn't come back, how many games?
I'll still say 6. I think that Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris could have great games, or even Seth Curry dropping like 30 to keep them in a series.
I also I got a tough question for you because it's even a tough question for me that I'm wondering. Do you truly feel that Ben Simmons is actually the second best player on that team to Joel Embiid?
No, not all the time. I think that I
Mm.
think that Simmons puts them in a lot of good scenarios, but I think that on any given night, Tobias Harris,
Mhm.
even Seth Curry, they're all streaky players. So all of them have above and beyond. Like Embiid's clearly the number one, and he stays consistently really good. But all three of those guys, between Harris, Curry, and Simmons, they're very streaky, and they can either have an amazing night or they can have a completely awful night and not show up. So I think on different nights, there's different stars working along with Embiid.
Yeah, I've been feeling the same way. Ben, honestly, I probably, if I had to pick, I'd put Tobias as the number 2 option. I would put Simmons as third because I feel like Seth Curry, I don't know his role. His role is a bit more reserved than
Yeah.
Tobias, and Simmons' role is more pivotal of for the team.
It's
But it's you're right. It is really hard because it's not really clear.
Yeah, it's weird too because like I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that
Yeah.
that's more Doc Rivers finding more opportunities for the guys that are playing better each night, and they're taking advantage whoever is hot. So I think
Yeah.
that's a fine thing to do. I think that's just good coaching, but I would definitely wish that Simmons was more consistent.
Yeah, and you can just call this out too. The only reason Simmons is always called out as the second guy to Embiid is because he's has a bigger name than the other two. Because
Yeah.
he was the first pick in the draft. Philly did draft him. He's been on the team for the longest. At one point, was the second best player on the team for sure. So there's a bit of more history with him.
I would like to see a guy like CJ McCollum join that team. I think that would be a really good
I
piece.
would cry. The Sixers winning the chip, but
I think that's a perfect fit.
I'm there's another fit I want to say it won't it's not for Philly, that I want to bring up, but I'll say it later in the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I said Hawks in six. You said Sixers in 5 or 7, depending on what Embiid's health status.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So next series, let's talk about the Bucks versus the Heat. Well,
The
we already
net.
talked about the Heat, so that's fine. We won't talk. We talked about that last week. That series was finished real quick. We could
Just
talk
had to
about
put
the
that in
Nets.
there.
Yeah, of course. I guess we could talk about like the Nets and Celtics like final game, but I don't think there was really much to talk about. We all anticipated on the Nets winning, so
Oh, but I do want to say this. I told all of you I was right. Boston was gonna get one. They were gonna get one.
mm.
I thought it had to be in game one. I was wrong, but Kyrie did play bad in that game that the Celtics won, and Tatum dropped 50 points.
So
So I just had to put that out there.
so Bucks versus Nets. I personally, as much as I want the Bucks to win, I think the Nets win in. I want to say 5 or 6. I think that they're one bad performance from winning in 6, but if they play really good basketball, they're going to win in 5. I don't think they sweep. No chance. Um, the only way I see them losing is if Drew Holiday locks down James Harden or Kyrie. Well, I won't say lockdown, contains one of them. And Giannis outperforms KD. But that's a long shot still, because then you still have to have Chris Middleton playing really good basketball, and you have to have your big men playing perfect. I think it's going to take a lot for the Bucks though to have a chance.
I agree with your conclusion, like how it's gonna end next in 5 or 6. But I'm just sitting here trying to ponder like how the matchups are gonna go and just the anticipates are gonna happen on the floor.
No
You
DiVincenzo
see,
either for the Bucks.
yeah, you see, it feels like early in the season before Blake Griffin and the Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge thing, when they were starting either DeAndre, they were rotating between DeAndre Jordan and what's his name, Jared Allen, like
Yeah,
some point at center.
yeah. Now Jared Allen's gone.
Yeah, that's when I would have been more concerned about Giannis because they would have an elite rim protector down there. Obviously, they probably help on him driving to the basket, but they have two big, especially DeAndre Jordan, big strong presences that can tend him down low. But now that they don't have that, and they're having Blake Griffin at center, I think the opportunities for Giannis offensively is going to open up because of the starting five, Kevin Durant is their best rim protector. But Giannis is so much bigger, stronger, more athletic than him. He's not going to be able to contain him down low by himself.
I
So it's
think
going to be interesting.
I think that Giannis has a chance to be have the best performance out of any of the stars in the series of both teams combined. But if I
I
had
think,
to choose just off of consistency, I'm gonna say prob. Well, I would normally say Kevin Durant, but I think Giannis and KD guarding each other most likely is going to be a disadvantage for both of them. But if I had to pick, I would say that I think James Harden is going to be the player that steps out and plays the best out of the 4 or 5 stars in the series.
but the thing is, though, with the way Brooklyn can have the floor spaced out with their shooting, and then they have guys like their big three, they're just so elite inside and outside. I think it's gonna be a battle of offense clearly because their defense is nothing to brag about. On They pick and choose when they want to play defense.
Which
That's the
player is
thing.
going
The
to be the
Bucks,
best out of the out of
who's
both
gonna be the
teams?
best
Yeah, who's going to have
out
the
of
best
both teams?
player out of the series? Series strictly.
On it, I believe it's gonna be Kevin Durant. because I feel like when the game gets close and it really comes crunch time,
It feels like he
the
starts
the,
trying.
the Durantula's gonna come out. Yeah,
It,
because and then Giannis. First of all, he's probably gonna kill them with a lot of mid-range shots. And then when Giannis has to try and contend that, he's gonna either play up too much, and Durant's gonna create lanes to the basket because he's a really shifty 6'11" guy. And then when Giannis tries to cut off, if he tries to anticipate that too much, we know he'll pull up from three as well. Like Kevin Durant is the most unstoppable scorer in the generation of basketball, and you'll hear from me, they can, all said and done, we can make a fair argument for him being the greatest pure scorer we've ever seen.
didn't Giannis also say that Kevin Durant is the best player in his opinion in the league? I want to say that's what he said.
He said that about LeBron at one point too. Both this season. I don't remember. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I don't remember the Kevin Durant
Yeah, I'm
one.
not certain.
Yeah.
Either way, that's going to be a good series, and either well, like we're going to see still good star power, regardless of if it's only in 4 or 5 games. I think that the series is
Mhm.
still going to be close. Like the games will be close. I think it'll be decided by less than 10 in most of them.
They will definitely need Middleton has to help. Yeah, Giannis and Middleton are gonna have to average near 30 points. And Drew Holiday, I'm
20.
gonna say, yeah, about 20. I think he's capable of it too. And from the Brooklyn Nets end, I think Durant is gonna, because of the way they've been playing, I'm gonna say Durant and Kyrie might average close to 30, while Harden more like 25. Just
Kyrie can't
because
disappear.
yeah, and I don't anticipate him disappearing either. But as for like the defensive coverage, I told you, I think I said it before. I am almost 100% sure Drew Holiday's gonna cover Harden, because not only is Harden, like, even though he's playing a reserve role scoring wise, we know he's the second best scorer on the team. Well, his scoring ability rivals Kevin Durant, and he can just go off when he wants to. But he's also their key playmaker, so they're gonna want Holiday to contain that. Kyrie with the ball in his hands, you really just have to worry about him scoring.
I I just think the best course of action is you have to get inside James Harden's head. Maybe not like Pat Bev does, because I think sometimes that pisses off the player and
Mhm.
makes him play better. But I think that you got to just smother him if you're Drew Holiday to the point where he's getting aggravated
Yeah,
and getting more
yeah.
frustrated than he is getting better. And then you let KD and Giannis duke it out, and then the rest of the team can worry about. I mean, Middleton, and the rest of the Bucks can worry about Kyrie strictly from there.
I'm honestly looking forward to this matchup though. Like Giannis and KD, it's gonna be a while since we've seen like such a great position battle on both ends, like scoring and guarding each other.
I personally think this is essentially the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, it's literally because I know before we thought it was either the biggest threat to them would have probably been Philly, but with Embiid as such a
Iffy,
question
yeah.
mark, it's them. Yeah.
So, all right, next series we have the Nuggets versus the Suns. But with that, let's talk about the Nuggets versus the Blazers first.
Yep. How many games did that end again? I forgot.
Nuggets won in six, and in Game
One and two.
Five, Lillard had
Yeah.
55 and shot
Yeah.
70%.
I'm trying to remember my prediction. Yeah, I had the Nuggets winning in 7 games, but I was right on this. Who really made the difference? Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray not being there. Michael Porter Jr. stepped up, used the opportunities he was given, having the ball in his hand, the high usage rate, and excelled. That guy is something special. He's a special offensive force.
I'd like to give a shout out to Aaron Gordon for putting his best foot forward and attempting to guard Damian Lillard, because there's no such thing as guarding Damian Lillard. But he gave his best go. And as a
Actually,
power forward, it was honorable.
yeah, no such thing as guarding Damian Lillard except Drew Holiday. Don't forget that.
I don't know.
Dame Dollar himself said after that series, "I've never been guarded like that before."
It was special to watch. I mean,
Yeah,
70% from 70%, and I think he broke the record for most threes in a playoff game, like 13 or 14. That's
I,
ridiculous.
I have an interesting question for you. Like, obviously, I think we both agree that Steph Curry is a better pure shooter than Damian Lillard overall. But in terms of like shooting off the dribble, like, I know for a while I've always felt that Steph number one, who but now I actually think solely off the dribble, Damian Lillard the better shooter. But what sets Steph apart is how lethal Steph is off the ball and spotting up, which Damian significantly lacks. What's your take on that? Do you think Dame's a better shooter off the dribble than Steph?
I think he's more fluent, but I don't know if I would call him better. Like Steph, it doesn't look as nice when Steph does it sometimes, but he does it so smoothly that it doesn't matter. Um,
Hmm.
but Damian Lillard, when he shoots off the dribble, it looks smoother, even if he doesn't necessarily make it. So, of course, Steph makes more threes, but I think Damian Lillard's personally slightly better off the dribble, at least look wise,
Yeah.
and it looks like easier shot. I mean, he gives himself the best chance of making the shot, regardless of how deep the three is.
Yeah, because he's way more athletic than Steph, so he jumps so high on his shots, especially
Yeah,
when he goes deep, and he dominates the ball more than Steph. So he has it in his hands more, sizes up defenders, does more one-on-one. Because I noticed what Steph will do, because he's also capable of lighting it up like off the dribble in similar fashion. But when guys really press up on him on the perimeter or a screen comes up, what he'll do sometimes is make a quick pass and then take it back and take a dribble and shoot, while Damian will literally hold the ball, dribble the whole time, and just go over them.
yeah. It's
Yes, Steph is definitely a better all around shooter. Like his movement off the ball.
all I gotta say is Damian Lillard needs help.
Mhm.
Um, it's absolutely ridiculous the lack of assistance that the Trailblazers front office is giving this man for the amount of scoring he is doing. And
Yeah.
CJ McCollum does not count. He is a great player, but he's not a star. And I think we're in a league where you need two stars to have any chance of making it far in the playoffs. And they don't have that. By the way,
Yeah.
the Damian Lillard, I believe, told sources yesterday that he wants Jason Kidd to be his next head coach since Stotts stepped down and mutually parted ways.
Uh, on the CJ McCollum, I see what you're saying. I think CJ McCollum, he's similar to Middleton. It's like he's a number 2, 3-ish guy, 2 or 3-ish. I think he can be a number two, but you need to have another guy who's also like a number two, like as good as him, for them to be champion contention. But taking CJ aside, because we've seen CJ elevate in big moments for them before, I think he's fine. What Stephen A brings up is a good point. He said Yusuf Nurkic, I mean, pisses him off so much because of how inconsistent he is. Because he has such a versatile skill set as a big man, similar to Jokic. But it's like some nights he brings it out, other nights he just looks like
Yeah,
applesauce.
some days he's a star, some days he just doesn't show up at all.
And if he were to actually step up, like if he were to be consistent, he would probably be the number two option and not CJ on that team.
I
And
mean,
then we see a difference for them.
there was a point where we thought that he was a top five center. Like, I'm pretty sure they had him, like, even if it was number five, I'm pretty sure he was right in line to be, one of the top five
Yeah.
centers. And then he kind of just fell off. He had a big injury, too. I mean, I'd like to imagine Damian Lillard and Giannis being on the same team because I think that would be pretty crazy to watch.
But now here's my revelation that I want to postpone for later. Dame Dollar come to South Beach.
No.
Yes. Yup. 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 Yup.
You want no help?
Dame,
Come to New York.
if you want to get to the championship, come to South Beach. You want to be in a big, and in addition to being able to compete and have help around you, because you'll have a legit number two option in Jimmy Butler. If you come out here, you'll be playing in a big market city with all the light, because despite your greatness, this Portland's not doing you a good service to showcase your abilities. If you were playing in a big market area, Dame Dollar, I'm telling you,
Just like New York.
you would get more publicized. That's why, like other point guards, even at one point, Kyrie was getting more hype than you, because again, well, he was playing alongside LeBron, but yeah, he had more spotlight on him because of the situations.
I think that if Damian Lillard and Zion joined the Knicks, we would be all set. Zion already wants to play for the Knicks, so why not just add Damian
That's
Lillard in
gonna
there?
Zion. I'm telling you, that's gonna be the biggest mistake you make. You do that, your career is gonna be over. Damian Lillard, you the same thing. Do not go to New York. Look what
Why
happened to
don't you want to
Melo.
win?
Look what happened to Melo. Look what happened to Stoudemire. Do not do it.
You guys don't want
Don't
to win
do it.
championships?
Don't do it. If you want to lose, if you want to work for a dysfunctional franchise, you want to be constantly humiliated in the media. Sure, go for it.
Don't want to
You
work with
want
the best
actually,
coach in the NBA.
if you actually want to succeed, do not go to MSG. You've been warned.
I guess people don't want to win anymore. Play for New York. Come on now.
Or you gonna win James Dolan's heart?
No. But Damian Lillard and Zion would be winning plenty of chips in New York together. Don't worry about that.
Potato chips.
So now we get to talk about my favorite prediction you made in this first round. Potentially the most altering. Lakers versus Suns. We both had our finals teams facing off each other. I'm not sure if you had the Lakers. Did you have the Lakers winning the chip or losing?
Oh, win it. Oh, I picked them winning, but I said solely just based on who I was rooting for.
Yeah.
In terms of favorability, no.
So that was a great series. I am devastated to not see AD be a part of it because I think that Game 1 and 2 were probably the most entertaining. I know the Suns won one and the Lakers won one, but AD played both of them, and he played them both somewhat healthy, even if he didn't play well in the first one. So that was enjoyable. And now I get to listen to a bunch of Lakers fans tell me how we lost the series because we didn't have AD, and that's going to be an excuse for the next 6 months of my life. So I'm not necessarily happy to pick the Suns advancing when I'm going to have to listen to the excuses for the next 6 months.
I mean, it's funny. You people like to say excuses when they don't want to hear context or reason, and that's fine. And I'm gonna say this: if they're saying if they had AD, they would definitely win, then I'm with you. That would be toxic. No, I'm saying I agree with you. Like, that would be ridiculous. But if they were saying that's the reason why the series was so short, what was it? Wait, they lost
6 games.
Oh, it was in 6 games. Okay, if they wanted to say if AD was healthy, they would have went to Game 7, then that's fine. I think that's very fair because, like I said before, a game 7, that's essentially a coin flip right there. Because even with AD, like as we talked about before, LeBron and AD, both of them missed so many games throughout the year, so they weren't at their best. But to say that AD being there would have definitely guaranteed a win, that's what I'm saying. That would be pushing it, so I agree with you on that. But to say they would have went to a Game 7, I think that would be a fair take.
That's fair. I agree with that. I think that I have some beef with LeBron too, real quick, that I need to clear up. And it's not what we were talking about the other day, but I want to say that I was rewatching some of the game, and there was a moment where he had a turnover, and then the very next possession, he got the ball, and he missed a drive in a somewhat open lane. And both times, he started yelling at the ref and didn't run back to play defense and waited on the other side of the court. And that bothers me, especially when you're on the brink of elimination.
Oh, I could bring someone else up sitting on the bench away from his teammates as well.
Yeah, I think that, I'm sure he knows more than we do, of course, but I think that there's a sense of, you have to still, as the captain, you still have to believe that there's a chance you can win, and you can't, even if he was playing at his top performance, you still got to believe there's a chance to win, and you got to show that to your teammates too, or else they're not going to follow, and they're not going to be as motivated, because I think there was a sense that he almost gave up, and I think that his teammates were, very much okay with giving up too at that point.
I'll say he looked like he gave up more so within the last 2 minutes of the game. No, I think it was in the last.
The final 8 minutes of the fourth quarter is when he started, complaining a lot. He was just not. I wouldn't say complaining a lot, but very, very laid back to what he was playing like.
No, I got it now. it was the last time when he asked to come off the court for a second to catch his breath, and then he saw because they at that point he had brought within 8, but then the sun started to start to go off again. So like you could clearly see that game that LeBron had to be on the floor at all times because he did not spend too much time on the bench. Sometimes he
No,
come out just to catch his breath, but the moment he catches breath, you just see the lead go away again and again and again. But I think honestly, I'm just gonna. It's gonna be funny hearing this. I think we just saw the humanity of LeBron. He was frustrated. I mean, that just summed it up. We seen. I'm gonna bring up Kobe. So I don't remember which series it was. It was a post Shaq era. I'm not sure if it was in the finals or not. But when the Lakers they weren't work with him, like he had no help on the floor, and they were getting blown out in a game, he essentially quit, like refused to shoot the ball or do something along those lines. And again, it wasn't that like he was like saying, "Oh, we lost." He was just frustrated. He knew they weren't gonna get where they need to be. He was just frustrated with the mess that happening around him. So I think it's a similar thing to LeBron, and
yeah,
also internal. It's internal frustration with himself. Like I told you before, the whole thing when he said, "Oh, I'll never be the same again," hyperbole, because it really was. Because think about it, I think this season he played like 1/3 of the season, and after the injury, like the play-in tournament was around the corner. Remember, he went off about that too, saying whoever came with that idea needs to get fired. Again, it was just the timing of everything, and then Anthony Davis being in and out. In a way, I guess LeBron just felt he was probably in a place where he just felt everything collapsing around him, then himself and the team as well.
right. I think that we aren't giving enough credit to Father Time. I think that as great as LeBron is, I do think it also contributes to the fact that he's 35, I believe, if not
Yeah,
36. And I do think
yeah,
that he's getting very tired very easily. I still think he's still well conditioned above most of the NBA, but I
yeah.
think that we're going to see points where he's not going to be able to go and play 45 minutes easily
No,
without.
we already saw it in the series. Like that's why he get asked for breaks to come out because he was
But
tired. Because if we go back to 2015 without Kyrie and Kevin Love, he had to play pretty much the whole game then. But I don't remember seeing him asking to come out because again I think he had just hit 30 at that point.
But I think we attribute some of this series, at least with his ankle injury. So like I think that doesn't get shown as much. But I think when he's
Yeah,
fully healthy, even I think that there's going to be points where it's going to be, he's going to be gassed out.
yeah, but yeah, no, like you're absolutely right on that. But I just think we need to take a step back and look bigger picture. LeBron essentially spoiled us into like just because we've seen him do like basically the impossible thing.
We expect
How
it.
would this guy's yeah? It's gonna be like I can say the same thing about Russell Westbrook. Like you and we seen Russell since his younger days. That guy's engine never is never on zero. When we finally start seeing him looking tired in a game, I think both of us are gonna be scared.
Well, and it's like I think a great example is like if you compare it to football with like Tom Brady. We
Yeah,
we get spoiled with the fact that he's in the Super Bowl almost every year, so that we expect it. So, but when he went to the Bucks and they started having a slow performance and they weren't looking that great early on, it was like, oh, maybe he's old, and then okay, he carries him to the Super Bowl, and now we're right back to those expectations. Oh, he's going to be there next year, right? So there's always these expectations that they're just going to go all the way
I
every
think
year.
I think where LeBron is now. But just because his conditioning and athleticism were just so, I'm just gonna say supernatural. I think he's at a point where, let's say, his body is essentially the average, above average, slightly above the average NBA
Yeah.
players. So we're gonna see the fatigue that if we saw Kevin Durant or these other guys getting tired at certain points of the game, we'd just be like, oh yeah, look at me, minutes he played. But because we've seen LeBron endure past that, that's why it's really taking us off guard. But uh, I don't think I brought this up to you like earlier because we were texting back and forth. I might have just mentioned it, but not gotten into it. But do you know who my biggest problem is on that Lakers roster
It better
and
be
the
Dennis
move that I
Schroeder.
don't like? No, honestly, he's second to me. You
Um,
know who is? Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond,
why
a
did we
guy
bring him in?
yeah, exact. That's exactly my point. What did you get him for? And first of all, the guy used to be an all-star in the Eastern Conference. First of all, his all-star appearances that just told me how weak the East was too. Because I'm like, you're literally bringing up a pure rebounder is
Yeah,
an all-star. But you brought him in. First of all, his rebounding wasn't even that impressive for them this year. He was defensively he was almost useless when guys put him on the pick and roll and stuff. They had to take him off the court and make Anthony Davis play center. And then last night, first of all, and Marc Gasol's too old. The Lakers got to a point where they said, you know what? I think we're better off using the old man Marc Gasol more because at least he can hit perimeter shots. But even still, the rim protection was non-existent. And this is a point where I haven't heard any analysts say this. And this is to credit LeBron here. Who I was so surprised when I saw him playing center. He was guarding DeAndre Ayton. Like when I saw that, I said the Lakers are done. And I gotta say that because DeAndre Ayton, he was destroying Marcus Gasol and Andre Drummond if he even played the moments that he was on them. But LeBron was able to contend him a bit, like or at least keep the ball out of his hands. But so I think we got to give him credit for that, like for his
hmm
paint protection there. But that just told me no, like you're literally having LeBron out there playing point guard and center for you at the same time. Because LeBron was the only one out there to rebound. The moment I saw him having to guard DeAndre Ayton, this was before even the fourth quarter. I knew they lost.
yeah. Outside of LeBron, I mean, LeBron played a disappointing performance for
Yeah,
who he is,
yeah.
but he was
I'll say,
still
I'll say,
no
I'll say
help.
I'll say it was a decent performance for
Yeah,
him.
he
Decent.
still had
Yeah, he
no
was like
help.
25, like 9-9, something like that.
I am extremely disappointed specifically in Dennis Schroeder. I think that
Yes.
he had every chance to be,
Yes.
well, he was guaranteed to be the number three guy behind Anthony Davis for the most part. He was averaging, I think, at least 15 points a game and plenty of assists, and games where he scored over 30. But
Hmm.
we get into the playoffs and he's throwing games where he's having zero or he's having like 5 points and missing every shot. I I mean, for someone that's supposed to step up, especially with AD gone, you're supposed to be the number two option, and you
Yeah.
just completely vanish out of the playoffs. I mean, that's
But Ev,
disgusting.
the reason, you know why I'm not that hard on him? Because it honestly didn't surprise me because I've been looking back into his history since the Hawks when he was the sixth man there. Like I used to think Schroeder was garbage back in the younger day, but I was like, say, all right, the guy can play in the regular season, but I would never big on him because when it comes postseason, he's non-existent. And why he doesn't get like the ridicule and stuff is because he's always a role player. Let's be real. That's the
Yeah.
only reason why. In OKC, he was no help to Paul George and Russell Westbrook when he came off the bench. And it's the same thing here with the Lakers. Genie Buzz, the Lakers, they need to make some moves because first of all, I felt I had a bad feeling in my gut for the Lakers when they got rid of Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee. Like I don't think a lot of people realize how important they were to their team because just like last year, perimeter shooting was such a weakness for them, and the perimeter defense was essentially primarily it was better last year with Danny Green and LeBron for the most part. But their interior defense and how big they were, their size and the rebounding was so much for teams to contain and deal with. It minimized the lack of shooting efficiency because they could get a lot of stops and get second chance scoring opportunities. But take that away, now you really saw the Lakers scoring flaws being exploited without anything to mitigate it. So what the Lakers need to do, I don't know if what they're gonna do at the big man spot, but let's just assume Anthony Davis is gonna have to be playing center again, even though he doesn't like it. They need to get shooters because we're gonna assume that let's say next year LeBron he's gonna act as he's still gonna be like the secondary scoring option on the team to Anthony Davis as anticipated, but gonna be the primary playmaker. So, and what will LeBron? How has LeBron excelled? If he has shooters to drive in and kick out. 'Cause when LeBron healthy driving to the basket. Health coverage does come to him. Him and Anthony Davis, they're gonna get doubled inside. They need shooters open to space out the floor for them. So Lakers get shooters. If you don't do that, it's only gonna go downhill from here. Because as Evan said, age is a factor. Despite how much LeBron spoiled us, he's only gonna keep getting worse. Anthony Davis, we don't even know what the hell is up with him with his health.
Yeah, take
As much as I
advantage of the
love him,
time you have left with LeBron on the court.
yeah, yeah, get shooters.
If so, there's been a lot of rumors that Russell Westbrook is going to be on a new team again next year. Do you think that the Lakers should heavily pursue him?
No,
No.
no, because it's gonna be the same problem. The like perimeter shooting, it's gonna be so congested on the floor.
Yeah.
Like no, if anything, Russell Westbrook, he would excel on a team that already has shooters around him. Like let's just say hypothetically, uh, I can't even think of a good team to use as an example. Let's say Luca wasn't playing point guard for the Mavericks. We see how they have shooters like from Kristaps and then all of these other
Tim
guys.
Hardaway, yeah.
That would make more sense because he could actually that could work. Like when Luca comes off the court, Russell Westbrook just to be the main ball handler and again driving kick the shooters, that could work. But if you're on a team that does not have perimeter shooting, you do not need to get a Russell Westbrook.
Well, I think this year especially, if we see the Nets win, I think that we're gonna have a lot more superstars who, I mean, they already know it, but I think that they're gonna be reminded how it's superstar league and the team with the most superstars is gonna win. So I think with that said, that a lot of players are gonna be willing to go to new destinations just to form kind of a super team. So like,
Hmm.
I think I could see a situation where Damian Lillard forces his way out of Portland. Well, I don't think he wants to leave Portland. He wants to be a lifetime trailblazer. So either him forcing himself out of Portland or forcing them to trade for somebody, even if it costs like 5 first-round picks, like the one trade cost, I think, the Clippers.
Hmm.
I definitely would want to see LeBron get someone who has elite shooting ability. I mean, I know Steph and LeBron have always talked about playing together as a joke. That would be really entertaining. But
I honestly don't want it to happen just because I know the ridicule that
oh yeah,
you one of them or both of them will face.
I want
Because
to have Giannis have a star next to him. I mean, Chris Middleton's there, kind of there,
yeah,
but a superstar.
I wouldn't mind seeing Steph play with Giannis.
Me
I
either.
wouldn't. But well, this would be interesting. Well, it's a question mark because we don't know how he's going to be coming back. But Klay Thompson on the Lakers now, that's a different story.
Yeah, like what if the Warriors kind of fell apart and let's say Steph went with Giannis and Clay went with the Lakers? That would be wild.
I'm laughing right now because I just remember something hilarious. Do you watch? Do you know who Chris Broussard and Rob Parker are? Right,
Of course.
two analysts. Yeah, on Fox Sports. I don't remember what the name of their show is. But I saw a video of Rob Parker telling the Warriors, "Do not offer Steph Curry the max. Let him go. It'll be the worst mistake you ever do."
I he's another player though, similar to Damian, where I don't picture him ever leaving his home team.
Yeah, I don't think he should either. I really don't think he
If
should
he doesn't want to win
because
titles, then yes.
no. I don't think he should because don't you see the Golden State as the place that maybe players would actually want to go to?
Yeah, I
If
think
yeah, he can attract players.
I think as long as Clay stays there too, I think Clay's a really attractive piece to have with him. Um,
Yeah, and like against Steph, I'm pretty from what I can see, like players around the league, like they tend to like Steph, like well, guys. So in terms of a locker room presence, I think Steph. I think he really just brings a good culture there, a good environment over there in Golden State. I think would help attract players.
where would you rank them in duos, Clay and Steph?
Steph and Clay. Um, are we just talking in this era or like right here, right?
Right,
Or
right
if they
now.
were to come back
Yeah, if
right
they were to
now?
come back.
They're to come back right now. That's really tough. First, I'm gonna start off with just backcourt duos. At first, I would put them. I will put them third at first, just because we need to see Clay get healthy again. If not, I would have them first because I would have CP3 and Devin Booker and Dame and CJ above them.
Okay, what about like star duos though? Like I'm talking like you got like you could take two people from the Nets, two people from well like Devin Booker and CP3, and then like LeBron and
Yeah.
AD. Where would you rank them?
All right. If we are we gonna assume that Clay comes back perfectly?
Yes.
Okay. I will put them. I I also have to ask because this is where it gets hardcore with Brooklyn now. Who are we gonna pick as the duo?
Whoever you think are the best two people on that team. So I
All
would
right,
put Harden and
Harden and
KD.
KD.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna say it's crap. If we're just talking solely in terms of like their collective individual talents, I will put Harden and KD at number one. I'll put LeBron and AD number two, and then Steph and Clay. But if we're taking that into consideration, but also how their games complement each other, um, I think it will be fair to. It's going to be hard, but I actually kind of have them.
All
Have them a
interchangeable.
very close second to LeBron and AD at number one,
I think
just because
the
I
chemistry.
like. Yeah, and here's the thing about Clay. Like you've heard me say that before, like how when people say as Steph's 3-point shooting would change this era of basketball and stuff. Like I told you, I don't totally disagree with it, but I think that's only half the story. I think what truly revolutionized it is it's the first time where we've seen the two best shooters in the NBA in their own era together on the same team in the same backcourt, and both of their shooting abilities are you can make a case for either one of being the greatest pure shooter of all time. Having that together is what really revolutionized the game, and the floor spacing that they create for not only for each other but for everyone else around them. I think all that effect is what make them such an amazing duo.
I just thought of something really scary. I want you to
Oh,
imagine with
I
the
thought I said something blasphemous.
no, no. Imagine the shooting and the ball movement of the Warriors, Steph Clay, but instead of James Wiseman, you have Nikola Jokic at center.
I'd have to start hating the Warriors again.
Like that would be like I mean, Jokic is passing and playmaking, but like even if Jokic isn't scoring, the distribution to the 3-point shooters and then vice versa, just down low to Jokic, like that would be really fun to watch. Huh.
Let me ask you this. Since you brought Jokic, can you see Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Michael Porter Jr. being a legit big three at some point in the future?
No, I think that they're similar to Giannis's situation, in a sense. I mean, I think Jamal Murray is fringe star level. Like he puts up 50 one night and he puts up 15 another night, so that's a little
Yeah.
bit troubling. But I don't see Michael Porter ever taking the superstar step. Like I think that he could take like a Chris Middleton step.
So be like a borderline all star.
Yeah, and then Jamal Murray, I think, is a little bit closer to superstar level. So I'm trying to
So
think
he
of a
might
good
be in like that.
example.
Like, do you think he could? Jamal Murray's ceiling might be around like Kyrie ish.
Um, I'd say close to it, around there.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah, that's fair. But can you see with those that trio winning a championship though? I honestly believe it. If everything like the current path they're on, if everything continues to go up for Michael Porter Jr., I could see them being a championship team.
I think if they focus on getting a deeper bench, then yes.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
if they add two or three more role players, like if you had like a Jordan Clarkson or like Joe Ingles even coming off the bench, I think that would make a
Mm,
significant difference
yep.
in improving that team. All right. Speaking of which, because we got a little bit off topic, let's talk about the Nuggets and Suns now. Um,
Oh, wait,
who do you?
slightly
Okay.
before that, I just want to admit to viewers and be honest. If they I was wrong about the Utah and Memphis series. I had predicted Memphis winning in seven, I believe. I was not under the assumption that Donovan Mitchell would come back, but he did come back, and it was a clear mismatch. And he came back hot, essentially.
He humbled you.
So yeah, and Evan was right in that series. Okay, every once in a while,
Thank you.
Evan wins. Every once in a while, Evan wins something.
We'll talk about that topic.
Yeah,
We'll talk about the Jazz. Don't you worry,
yeah,
because even though the other series isn't done, we'll talk about that one last.
yeah.
So Suns and Nuggets. Who do you have?
Suns and Nuggets. I'm gonna go with the Suns.
I I think that the Suns are favored, but this is unlike the last series where Jokic. It was basically Jokic versus Lillard,
Yeah,
and it was more focused on the guys around them than them. I
yeah,
think that this series is going to be more focused on Jokic having to play MVP basketball to have a chance of winning the series. Like I think that
yeah.
regardless, like we expect him to play really well, but like I think he's going to have to do the 35, 40 points a night to win. Um,
Michael Porter Jr. He's gonna have to give back him up with like 25.
Imagine this series with Jamal Murray. You would have Jamal Murray, CP3, and then
Mhm.
Michael Porter, Devin Booker, and then Jokic and DeAndre Ayton. That would have been so much fun to watch.
Honestly, CP3, that was a big reason why I choose them because see the leadership that he's gonna bring. He's gonna play reserve role and let Aiton and Booker do their thing, and we know how talented they are. That's gonna be really entertaining too, I think, because Aiton is proving he's not scared of the moment. First time in the playoff, he's showing he's a playoff performer. Him and Jokic is gonna be a battle because we saw he didn't back down from Anthony Davis
No,
either. So that's gonna be interesting. But the leadership that CP3 is gonna bring with that basketball IQ, like I will say, if eh, everyone this era, like see between CP3 and Rondo, they're the two individual who I'll say their basketball IQs people could say might even be greater than LeBron's.
I
But
think it's
it's
important.
on that level. Hmm.
I think it's important to understand that CP3, even if he doesn't score 20 or have like 20 assists, um, that the biggest thing with him is he knows what it takes to win. So it's not even he doesn't need to go score 25 points. He understands that maybe if I make this play or if a screen goes over here and we set up this play, as long as we get that bucket, it doesn't matter what my stats are. This is what's going to win the game. This is what's going to score us points. This is what's going to prevent the other team from scoring. And I think it's underappreciated, at least in this
Yep.
league, because he did that a lot, even with the Thunder in the playoffs, where they almost upset in the first round.
He's done that every single situation he's been in, every single one,
Yeah, knows how to win.
always, always.
Um, However, I'm curious to see if they put Aaron Gordon on Devin Booker or they keep Michael Porter on Devin Booker because Aaron Gordon has been kind of the go-to to guard the star players.
He's gonna guard Booker.
Yeah,
Michael Porter Jr. Like they're basically giving Booker free points.
yeah. So I think that it'll be a matter of Jokic has to play well above DeAndre Ayton and have a chance,
Mhm.
and Michael Porter needs to play really well. Outside of that,
Yeah,
I don't think that they have a chance. I'll say
yeah,
Suns in 6.
yeah. I agree with that.
So all right, Jazz. Well, the Jazz beat the Grizzlies. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, we can. I didn't really have many surprises. Shout out to John Morant's dad for rooting for the Jazz. After all the respect that they gave him.
Yeah,
I think that the Grizzlies are two stars away from having a chance to go deep in the playoffs. So I think that
yeah.
they need more, like way more. I mean, either one superstar with John Morant or two star players, like two Jimmy
Yeah.
Butlers, I would say in a sense.
And what's your take on Jaren Jackson Jr.? Do you see him being a future star?
No, I see him being a future role player,
Lee, I think so too because
like
one
Lou
think about
Williams
it.
in a sense.
Yeah, like funny. He's a big guy. He's a gifted shooter at the big man position, but he doesn't really rebound that well.
No. Um, I think that you're starting to see that from Porzingis too. I think people are starting to realize he's not necessarily all star talent. He's fringe all star talent. Um,
Yeah,
and I think that Jaren Jackson can probably get to that level, like where Porzingis is kind of normally at. Like not Porzingis' best, but Porzingis' normal basis. I think is where Jaren Jackson could end up being.
yeah,
Um, but with that said, the Jazz, on the other hand, I don't know what it is because I don't rate Rudy Gobert or Donovan Mitchell on a super high superstar scale. I do. Well, Donovan Mitchell is slowly climbing up really quickly because 20 or not, similar to Chris Paul, he's finding ways to win, and he plays
mm,
pretty good defense. But they also have a really deep team with guys like Ingles, Clarkson, and Bogdanovich, right?
yeah. In Mitchell, he's actually improved his playmaking ability.
Yeah.
Like they're feeding off of his passes on the perimeter.
And we were here two or 3 years ago, and I told you, I think multiple times that the Jazz were losing these playoff games because Donovan Mitchell was shooting them out of the series. And now he's learned to, if I'm not playing well, I could find good opportunities for my other players and rely on them. And I think that's
Yeah.
important because he didn't have
Well,
that trait a couple years ago.
yeah, and especially because now, 'cause back then he was playing two guard for them. Now they have him playing point guard,
Yeah,
so he has to play the role of facilitator.
it's weird too because you have Mike Connolly on the team.
Yeah.
You have such a. I would say it's the deepest team in the NBA, like all around. Maybe next to the Nets, because I know they have a few guys, but a lot of them are a little bit older. Like they have pretty good. Well, Clarkson's like what, in his late 20s, or is he early 30s?
I think late 20s.
And then you have, I mean, Joe Ingles plays pretty good defense, and he's kind of a pest in the sense that he's going to drive the other team nuts.
Uh, Paul George.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm excited to see that because especially if the Clippers win, we're gonna get to see that again. I do you have well, let's talk about the Mavericks and Clippers since that's who they're gonna be facing next. As
Hey, hold on, let me get this F. I want audience to know this might be one of the most entertaining moments for you guys. Me and Ev, we are betting on this series now. Both of us had predicted this going into Game 7. But Evans going with had the Clips, I got the Mavs. Now I'll say when I saw that the Mavericks had won those first two games, I then called a sweep. But my initial instinct was a Game 7. So we got a plate of food on this. B Dubs, yes, and I can't wait to collect again because I just want everyone to know Evan has a losing record with me when it comes to bets.
yeah, Buffalo Wild Wings is on the line, but let me tell you, Kawhi Leonard put down the clamps on Luca last night. The Claw put down the clamps on Luca and dropped 45 in the process. So everyone can remember who he is because no one's talking about him anymore.
Yeah, but I think we can say I don't think we should necessarily even try to defend him too much because I think we can also say he kind of did that to himself as well, and not because I'm going beyond the fact that because he folded last year, it's because all the talking he started doing. The guy who was always quiet started talking and gassing himself up. That's what happens.
Yeah, well
So
now he's pissed off
yeah,
because now everyone's
and,
slandering him, and he's going to show everybody.
and he's quiet again. You see what happens when he's quiet? How better he is. Kawhi, keep your mouth shut.
Kawhi's the best Kawhi.
But but it's funny how I don't know if you watched on the later episode Undisputed. Yeah, where the last game that they lost against the Mavericks, Skip Bayless, he brought his Kawhi New Balance kicks because he was the first one to get them when they first dropped last year, celebrating. Yup, I'm a Kawhi fan again. He bamboozled King James. Now he said, "I'm done with you," and threw them off the table. He threw Kawhi's jersey off the table. I'm done with you again.
I,
But yeah, Kawhi, like I've said it many times, even despite the fact that they lost last year, Kawhi Leonard to me is the best two-way player in basketball. Now, for fans out there or maybe aren't as familiar with basketball, I'm just going to specify a two-way player is a guy who's an elite scorer offensively and an elite defender. That's a two-way, both ends, one-dimensional in a sense. Because like, if you want to look at guys like LeBron does more because he passes and doing all that stuff, but purely scoring and defending, that's what we call a two-way player. And Kawhi Leonard is the best. Paul George, Paul George
George
should
Paul.
be the he should be the second best. We could. I think. I don't even know if. But I'll say let's just, when he's playing at it that he should be a top three two-way player in the league, pure two-way player. I know last night he started off hot in the first half, but turned into George Paul in the second half. But Kawhi took over. But these Mavericks, though, shout out to Luka Doncic. 'Cause, I mean, the guy, he has nerve damage in his neck, so the pain he must be going through, but he's still killing them. I'll still say I think Luka's been the best player in this series. Still,
I think Luka's been the best player in the playoffs.
yeah, for sure. But guess what? Game 7, you know what that means. Paul George gonna turn back into George Paul.
It's okay. The claw's coming.
Claw, we remember the last time we saw you in a Game 7.
Sending Philly home.
Yeah, but guess what? That's because Embiid folded. But this is Luka Doncic now, and you better make sure you guard him from the start. Or you know what I would actually do if I'm the Clippers? Since well, I don't even know, but I'm anticipating Paul George folding again. If they're gonna have Kawhi playing that big a role offensively, you better have Paul George guarding him 24/7, like Drew Holiday level defense, like the scrap Paul George offense, 100% effort on defense to contain Luka.
No.
I think that'll give you a shot.
I think that Kawhi is going to have a repeat performance from Game 6. Maybe not drop 40, but he needs to focus on locking down Luka. If the Mavericks want any chance of winning, if that happens again, Tim Hardaway needs to play like himself. That's fine. He played well last time. Jalen Brunson needs to wake up, though, if Luka doesn't show up. Well, Luka's going to show up. It's just a matter if he's going to have to deal with very tight defense. Jalen Brunson did not show up last game. And he showed up most of the series, but when it mattered most, he did not show up last game. So if the Mavericks want to win, Jalen Brunson and Tim Hardaway better play very well if the claw comes out again and starts clamping Luka, at least in the slightest. Even if it's for 30, that's way better than what they've been doing before that. But in the same regard, Dallas or Kawhi needs more help. I mean, Paul George needs to play better. If they want a guarantee win, Paul George needs to play better. Because I don't think you can expect Reggie Jackson to put down 25 points again like last time. Because he shot 6 for 8, I think, at some point and was on fire. And you can't rely on someone who doesn't normally do that to do that again.
Yeah, the only reason why I said Paul George guard Luka because again, him and Kawhi is supposed to be, many you said, the best two-way backcourt, two-way wing players together since Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. But I said Paul George because if Kawhi's going to be carrying that much of a load offensively, chances are if he's having to stick Luka that much from the start of the game to the end, you don't want to risk him burning out because you're gonna need him to be great offensively. But I'll say in the fourth quarter for sure, Kawhi has to be guarding Luka.
Yeah.
But Luka ain't scared. He's getting buckets. Kawhi, Paul George, all those dogs on the Clippers, those so-called dogs, he's ready for y'all.
They started winning because Pat Bev only has 4 minutes a game now.
Yeah, the little chihuahua. Luka, this is your moment. You are about to be the top 5 player in the NBA, undisputed. You've been the best player in the postseason in this series. Now it's time to seal the deal. Sorry, Kawhi.
No, it's time for Kawhi to wrap it up. The claw's here to stay, and he's going to be probably a top 2 player after this series left in the playoffs, probably behind Kevin Durant.
What about your boy Giannis?
Not the way he's been playing lately.
Hey, this is hilarious coming from you. What? Let's move on.
So I do want to say though, real quick, regardless of the Mavericks or Clippers winning, I don't think either team has any chance against the Jazz. Um, I don't think the Mavericks are deep enough, and I don't think the Clippers are. Well, I don't think the Clippers are deep enough either. But I don't think the Clippers have enough points to score for the amount of role players that the Jazz has. So regardless, I think Donovan Mitchell
Yeah.
and company are going to be taking care of business in round two.
Let me ask you this, because you said that that Kawhi has enough help around him. I'm of the mindset, just in terms of if we were to look at the roster and look at names, I still think that the Clippers are one of the deepest teams in the league. But is your doubts in terms of like the help around Kawhi because of the coaching?
I think that's part of it because I don't think Tyronn Lue's a good
Yeah,
coach, but I think that
yeah.
this
I
team
think
is deep in regards to, I guess,
again,
playmaking and
names
defense, maybe. Well, names especially, but
names, but even their defense has been even last year. It's been lesser than what we expect given who they have.
none of
So,
those
so
guys are
that's what I'm saying.
scorers. Like
Yeah,
outside of Kawhi and Paul George, like Pavlov's not a scorer. He's supposed to be defensive
yeah,
oriented. Rondo's distribution
playing.
oriented. Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
think it's in Paul George's inconsistency is a big factor because if he was scoring consistently, Kawhi, I don't think we'd really be questioning their offense too much.
they just need someone who could score. Like even if it's like a like a semi star like Tobias Harris. I know
Hmm.
he used to play on the Clippers. They just need
Yeah,
someone that can put up 15 to 20 points a game.
I
That's
mean,
not Kawhi or Paul George.
we saw. We saw that with Lou Williams last year. What
I
happened?
think
I think
that's what they're missing right now is Lou Williams.
But again, but right there, again, in terms of like the name of what we know that he's capable of, for sure. But with Lou Williams in the postseason, we've seen him fall apart even before Kawhi's arrival.
Yeah, I think the best way to put it is they need a Fred Van Vliet, basically.
They need someone with the ability and who will execute.
Yeah.
That I think that's their problem. Like even right now, without that, I think it's just a lack of execution. I think it's just like the talent that they have on the team, they're just fine, but it's the lack of execution, and that's where I think, it might be like as you say, Ty Lue would be the problem because it's on him to help the players get into these good situations, and then on defensively. Their defense is weaker than you'd expect it to be, and you know this better than I do. But I think that's a more direct correlation to coaching, like defensive schemes, more so than the offense. Because I feel the offense is more player controlled, especially when you have playmakers like Rondo or like LeBron out there. But defensive schemes, I think that's where you really see
But
a reflection on coaching.
I think there's plenty of natural defense, like natural skill that a
Yeah,
lot of those guys have. But for the
yeah,
guys that don't have great natural defense, the whole thing comes down to motivation. Your coach has got to
yeah.
motivate you to want to play hard defense, even if it's not your thing. You're not a big defender or you're not good at it. You got to be able to motivate your guys to play good defense and be able
Come up with
to
schemes.
yeah come up with schemes, be able to run the floor for long periods of time, running back and forth, and still be
Hmm.
able to guard your man tightly and not have any
Yeah.
issues. And that's something
Hmm.
that they lack greatly outside of Kawhi. And I mean, Paul George has been a pretty good defender, but I still think that he's capable of more as well.
Yeah.
So
And again, lack of execution. We know what Paul George is like in terms of his skill set, like his abilities that he has, but it doesn't come out when they need it.
yeah, um, I agree.
Yeah, but still, since I'm picking Dallas to win, against the Utah Jazz, I don't care. I'm going with Dallas again. I'm going with Luca. That's gonna. But I think that'll be an interesting matchup because they're essentially each side they just have one superstar in Donovan Mitchell and Luka Doncic. So I think it'll be no. I know what you're looking side to side about. I'm not including Rudy Gobert in superstar name. No. Um, I think it'll be entertaining just to see how the role players are gonna really transform the series. Because I've heard many players. Shaq said it. Kendrick Perkins said it. Former champions have said it. Yet the superstars are important. You expect them to show up. That's why they're superstars. But what makes a difference for a winning team and a losing team is how the guys around them wants to play.
If the Mavericks advance somehow, some way against the Jazz, Rudy Gobert is going to bully Boban and KCP, or I'm sorry, not KCP, Kristaps Porzingis at the same time.
I mean, well, first of all, no, because guess what? Well, maybe Boban, but not KPZ. You know why? Because KPZ's not going to go inside. He's going to pull that shot over Rudy Gobert, and we know he's not guarding the perimeter. He roams around the paint. As long as stays outside and take those jumpers,
I almost
he's
want to
Gucci.
lose the original bet so I could prove you wrong on this one.
Well, you know what? You know what? It doesn't matter. I don't know if I'm going to bet on that one, but I
Yeah.
know I'm definitely betting on this one.
Mhm.
I can't wait. B
Me either.
Dub.
I can't wait to
Yeah,
get a
just
free lunch.
yeah, just like undisputed Skip and Shannon. All of a sudden, yo, get some do on that. We're getting wings on that.
Yeah, we're gonna be the best tasting wings. Taste of victory.
Yeah, and also when we do this, we're gonna go at a time while one of the games is on as well.
Good, good. Can't wait. Do you have anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Yeah. The one more question, like in terms of coaching, how do you feel? We should have brought this up with the Lakers. Frank Vogel. I don't know your take on that, coaching wise.
I thought when he was hired that it was the right hire, and I'm gonna try to hold out hope that he can improve. I don't think a lot of what went wrong was necessarily on him. Um, but I don't think that this was the greatest season he's coached. Like, it wasn't anywhere
Yeah.
close to when Paul George, Danny Granger were all on the Pacers and he coached that team. Like, it was a very different performance. And I know a lot of people are pursuing Jason Kidd because a lot of people have respect for him. So, like, Damian Lillard wants the Trailblazers to hire Jason Kidd as their coach. And I
Yeah.
heard that there's a lot of Lakers fans, I don't know about players, that want Jason Kidd as their coach too. So,
Hmm.
from my understanding, Jason Kidd's the more sought after coach, but I don't think Frank Vogel should be um, criticized too much yet. I think that he needs at least one more year because this is his first year coaching them, right? Or is this his second?
Second year, he
Second,
coached them
okay.
last year with the championship.
Yeah, right. So, especially with that too, they won a championship, and then this one year they got eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. So, like, on any other team outside of like LeBron's team, that's considered perfectly fine. Like,
Yeah.
you still reached expectations. So, but since they lost in the first round, it's a big deal because A, it's the Lakers, and B, it's you have LeBron and AD your team. But you didn't have AD technically. So I don't think there's a lot he could have did, especially when we talk about their roster around them and how
Trash.
inconsistent they played. Maybe you could chalk that up to coaching too, but I think that the team didn't perform well enough shooting wise too, which isn't necessarily on him.
It's funny. I actually heard I think it was Kendrick Perkins. This was very interesting. And I think other people like Chris Broussard said it too. A criticism on his coaching. It had nothing to even do with the role players, but it's in terms of like with LeBron. They were saying in those last minutes of the game when LeBron asked to come out, they I think Jay Williams also said it. He said when LeBron turned to him and asked him to come out, they think he should have said, "Hell no, stay out there."
They should that
Like,
Frank Vogel should have said no.
yeah, they said he should not have let LeBron come out the game. Because like they're saying, you guys are bleeding to death right now, and you're going on such a run. You've got some momentum going. Because at the point when they brought it down within 8, and like it's such a pivotal point. Like they're saying, I don't care. I'm running my role. I'm running the role player. No, running him down into the dirt if I have to. You are staying out there until the final buzzer.
I see. Like, I disagree because, assuming that was around the 8 minute mark, I think, because when they took him out for like 2 or 3 minutes, I think he came back in at like the 5.5, 6 minute mark or whatever. Um,
Something like that.
I what's your other option? Are you going to force him to play the next 5 minutes straight, and then he's still going to get tired? You're going to pull him out in the final 3 minutes. Let's say that you came back from being down 8, and now you're up by like 5, and then you're going to pull him out in the final 3 minutes of the game, and you're going to blow the lead
No,
again.
no,
They
that
want him
wasn't
to
their
play
case.
the entire
They're
game.
saying to play the whole. No, yeah, as in that fourth quarter, like at that, what was it? Let's say 7 minute mark, because I
That's
can't. I'm
asinine.
blanking on when it happened. He was saying that that final point, the last part where LeBron has to come out, they're saying no. You're staying out there to the final buzzer. That's what they said. They shouldn't have let him come out because they're saying you saw what was happening earlier. The moment he steps off the floor, everything gets out of hand, and you guys, you were catching momentum and on a run, like saying, you know what, even though he's older, he's still LeBron James. He can handle it better than most other guys.
No,
I'm
that's
sorry,
asinine.
I'm running it down to the dirt.
That's like
He,
similar to when KD returned early from what was it, his torn Achilles,
yeah,
in the finals, and
yeah,
let's say he started lightly limping, and then them just going, okay, well, he's still our star player, keep him in the game. We need to score. Now you're just putting the winning over a team's health, and that's not fair, or a player's health. And if LeBron
yeah,
A wasn't 100% and B he's also tired, then
yeah.
you're only putting his career and injury in jeopardy. So that doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, but I also want to give a big shout out for Anthony Davis though, just even for trying to step out on the court for like for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because Dennis Schroeder said he seen him in practice, he could see he was in pain. You could tell he just could not run at all, and he was really trying for them
Yeah.
too. But I'm glad they just finally took him out because I was so worried. I was like, do not jeopardize his career.
You said
Don't do it.
you said Dennis Schroeder said that?
Yeah, because he saw before the game, he saw that what's it called, AD looked like he was in pain.
Yeah, I was in pain watching Dennis Schroeder play, so that was good too.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, but I was just so glad. But he's a trooper. Like moments like that, I really respect players because that just shows he
Yeah.
wants to be out there to help them. Because even back to Klay Thompson, I'll never forget when he came out to shoot the free throws on one leg. He didn't want to come out the game. Even
No.
what was it? A torn ACL. It was Boogie or no, not yeah, Boogie. He went and fouled. It what's it called just to get Clay off the court. Clay was pissed because of it, but he came out to shoot a free throw with one leg and came out the game. Like that just shows the heart of a lion right there.
Yeah, guys want to win, and
Yeah,
there's only a few people in the NBA that are like that. But health comes first, and
yeah,
that's important.
yeah.
All right. Well, if you got nothing further, we are gonna wrap this up. How do you feel?
Yeah, I'm good, everyone. Thanks again for watching SEVelocity. We're really appreciate the support. I told you, me and Ev are passionate about this. We're genuinely having fun doing this. If you don't pick up on our energy, we get into it. It's something that we just really like to do. Love talking about. Again, as usual, like, subscribe, hate us, but still subscribe and comment anything you want. Give us more topics. Give us your opinions. Um, Let us know if we're being ridiculous, if we're being blasphemous, if we're right on point. It doesn't matter. We welcome all comments. And P.S. Next time we talk to each other, you'll know who won the bet.
Yeah, you'll be seeing those wings in my stomach. All right. Well, without further ado, I hope that you, Sean, and of course the people watching, I hope you all have a great week of basketball. Enjoy the games, and we will come back to you next week.